So, well, thank you everybody for being here on July 25th, 2021 on Global Technopolitics Forum's Research Team Weekly meeting. So let's start the meeting with Leo. Is Leo here?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Leo. Hello, Leo.
Hello.
Would you like to tell everybody how your research is progressing?
Yes. So for the 5G paper, I just added a section on the 3 5G leading vendors, so Huawei, Nokia, and Ericsson. And as I was writing that, I got a good sense of what I wanted to write and the big sections I wanted to write for the rest of the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent that message to you and Echo, and Echo and I are meeting on Monday, and it's my hope that after we meet, we can get our direction finalized, because it's been a bit difficult to get on the same track. So I think after that meeting, it's my hope that we'll be on track to at least getting all the content down on the paper by this time next week. And then after that, polishing up and getting the sections in good order.
Great. I actually added your text from Slack to the document. So I thought that way, anybody else looking at it, they realize that which direction you're taking and what you're thinking. So, but I think
Sounds
the
good.
progress is pretty good. Greg, did you have a chance to see it?
I took a quick look. It looks like it's going well. And I think you make the important point that it's not just Huawei, that the 5G technology is inherently more vulnerable than previous versions. I think that's an important point that gets a little bit lost in the debate.
Yeah, I wanted to make it so that the paper's kind of unique angle is that Huawei might be a bit of a boogeyman, and it's more so securing 5G networks in itself rather than pointing the finger at a specific 5G vendor.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's very important. Any comment, Paul?
None particular, although, of course, the issue of security came up in the discussion with Michel that time. And my sense was that he was also not necessarily pegging any specific vendor, but was referring to security issues in general. And that seemed to tally a bit with what he was describing as well.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it was Michel's actually comment that made Leo to follow that route.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that was actually, Michel was very, very helpful. Any comments from anybody?
I think the other important point that you make, Leo, is that since most of the developing countries won't be able to do standalone, so they will be dependent on vendors, and Huawei's obviously an attractive vendor.
Yeah, definitely, because it does seem like Huawei's one seems to be cheaper, and two has a strong presence in those developing countries, at least for developing their 4G networks or even before 4G. So it might be more easy for them or more financially viable for them to source from Huawei.
Yeah. Which raises very important question, I think, in terms of technology, not just 5G, but generally. So Okay, next.
Can I make one comment?
Please do.
Yeah.
So, because I'm also looking, a little bit peripherally as to how Huawei does business, especially in Africa and Latin America. So Huawei gets huge lines of credit from Exim Bank in China, and that allows them to extend it on the other side to their clients. So that becomes an added incentive, and it makes things more appealing to and easier to adopt. So that's also kind of like feeds into what Leo was saying and why it's cheaper for them. So there are a lot of competitive prices. Nigeria Airtel apparently was originally with Ericsson. But by 2016, 50% of their services came from Huawei. So that it should show you kind of like this massive influx towards Huawei. So
yeah.
The only thing is, as far as the Exim Bank goes, well, two things. It takes a long time to get anything done with them. And then the second thing is that they, as well as a lot of other Chinese banks and financial institutions in the last 5 or 6 years, as far as I can see, have gotten a lot tighter about providing loans and credit, especially in developing countries. I mean, in Africa specifically. And they've gotten a lot more concerned about corruption. I mean, the Nigeria case is an interesting one, but I think that's been a real big headache for the vendors involved, just because of Nigeria's current financial conditions and problems with currency. It's been a pretty significant challenge.
And and I see another movement happening. I think originally a lot of countries in third world countries were looking at vendors from Europe or other places, and then suddenly they started sometime around 2015-16 to switch to Huawei. But then again, since 2020, we see a return to those. So if you look at it, lots of countries started to make a U-turn, and now again, they're leaving Huawei and going back to Ericsson and Nokia and others. So that movement also is taking place at the same time.
No, not in Africa, though. Not in Africa. I think that's like in Africa, like citizens are like kind of like starting to be vocal about the influx of Huawei services and how they are like in everything. But I think that the governments are still, because of the surveillance system that comes with it, because of the advantageous kind of loan packages, and also they help them develop infrastructure, especially around where there are mining interests, where there's oil exploration in the case of Uganda, whatever. Still, so the government has like a stronghold, even though of course you have like this. So it's like you have this struggle between citizens and authority. Let's see which one wins.
Yes.
I think the point though is a good one about Uganda. I mean, or not only Uganda, but other places where there are raw materials, because in effect, Huawei, similar to other Chinese vendors, are sort of, how would I call it? I think it's in bicycle racing terms, it's called drafting, right? So China has these huge conglomerates, what they call engineering, procurement, and construction firms, and all of them state owned. And they've got significant positions and interest in some of these huge infrastructure projects in countries in Africa. And then they look to Chinese vendors for different aspects of it, because they can't do it all themselves, right? So for the telecommunications part, then they open bids to a Huawei or, a number of other companies in China. So those companies are not necessarily operating, independently or, breaking new ground. They're sort of piggybacking on the efforts of these rather large conglomerates.
Absolutely. And on top of that, because some of these countries are authoritarian, they actually intervene with the bidding process. Like Museveni just like stopped the whole thing and said, no, I think I have already determined which one is the best one. It's like this Chinese.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, so since we are here, Firuze, maybe you want to talk about your project.
So I'm just looking more about what's happening in Africa with the digitalization, because I think that when you guys proposed this project, there was like this sense of optimism that digitalization in Africa maybe is going to create this push into more democratic space opening, because of the advent of mobile phones and more media and more free speech. And I don't know, the jury is still out on them. So I'm like digging a little deeper. And I know that last time I raised the question about internet speed, and what are we talking about when we're talking about internet, and how fast or how slow is it? I dug up a little bit of information on that, which I thought is interesting. Let me see if I find the number here. So the fastest internet speed is in Singapore, which is absolutely highest with 226 megabytes per second. So 226. So just think about that. The US is the 10th faster, which is 161 megabytes per second. Now in Africa, the fastest internet speed is in South Africa with 35. So already compare 35 with 161 in the US, and 35 is the fastest in Africa. Everybody else is less than 20. It's around 20 and less. And some like hovering around 6, 7. So when we're talking about the internet penetration, we have to keep in mind what the internet speed is, and also the fact that most of the social media that they are on, it's like Facebook and WhatsApp, and it's just mobile phone
application.
reliant, absolutely. And also remember that the government shutdowns filters at will. Also, I think that it's not possible to talk about internet penetration and digitalization in Africa without also talking about surveillance. And because connectivity, of course, is growing, but it's coming at a high cost, and it has potentially corrosive effects on democracy, as we're finding out. Even here in the US, we're finding out, let alone in Africa, where it's mostly rural, and so like more challenges. More and more authoritarian governments are using surveillance and security systems to spy on their own citizens and clamp down on dissent, and they target their political oppositions. Two main players in Africa, of course, are the Chinese and the Israelis. Israelis have a very strong intelligence sector, and all the ex-intelligence people, ex-military, it's like this revolving door. They go from there to create and set up their intelligence companies. I think one that was just in the news last week all over the place, I don't know whether you guys saw it, NSO's Pegasus software that can hack into any mobile phone. Actually, it turns into your microphones into a recording device. And in Africa, they've been selling it to Morocco, Togo, and Rwanda. Rwanda, I found especially chilling because it's already a very authoritarian state. They came from a point of, we're the victims, and, we've been subject to this terrible genocide that happened in 1994. Tutsis was decimated by the Hutus. 800,000 people hacked in a matter of 3 months. And so now we've come and we've saved the day. So Kagame has been de facto consolidating its power more and more, but he's been cracking down on journalists, dissidents, jailing opposition leaders. I mean, Rwanda is called an army with a state, actually. The human rights watch point person is persona non grata, so they don't even want to know about that. They pursue their dissidents and journalists relentlessly, even outside of their own boundaries. One was assassinated in South Africa. Another one was extradited and under false premises kidnapped from Burundi and brought back and imprisoned. And so now that they have these extra abilities with the Pegasus software, we don't know where that's going. One little subtext to that I found is that because it cuts both ways, Moroccans are also spying on the French. So Macron was outraged to find out that the Moroccans are spying on him. So I found that a little bit amusing. But besides that, there are other software, the Mare software that is employed by the Congolese, for instance, also Israeli. And during the last elections, they use them not only to track and follow their dissidents and imprison them, but also they used it in order to lobby the Americans to project a better image of themselves and get them to drop their sanctions. So that likes the dual purpose of these softwares. It was interesting for me to kind of follow a little bit what happened in Congo, because I remember the first election that they had was in 2006. International observers were invited to oversee what was going on. It was deemed free and fair by all accounts. And at the time, I mean, there was no internet in Congo. And the internal discussions between the observers was that it's not that the state doesn't want to cheat, it is because they don't have the capacity to cheat. Okay, so, but fast forward.
They have it.
Now, the last elections were very, very different. The turnout was less than 2006 elections. The Mare software was used to follow dissidents. I mean, some of the conversations with these dissidents were chilling, actually. They say that no matter what we did, the state seemed to be a step ahead of us. They knew where we were getting together. They had logs and transcripts of all our text messages, all our phone calls to each other. Hundreds of people were killed during the protests, surveillance cameras everywhere. So with Mare software, and also Huawei has surveillance cameras everywhere, and Kabila used them in order to spy and keep a tab on his opposition. The main opposition was indicted and exiled, and they made a backdoor deal with someone of his own choosing, Martin Fayulu, not Martin Fayulu, sorry, Tshisekedi, Felix Tshisekedi. Fayulu was actually the one who was running ahead of all the polls, but then miraculously he didn't run. All the observers were disinvited, Carter Center included. After the elections, he disassembled the security system and installed it in his own private residence. So Kabila did. So, and with the lobbying efforts that the Mare intelligence company had, they lobbied to drop sanctions and for the Americans to accept the result of the elections. So it was kind of disheartening to see where it's come. When you look a little bit deeper into these countries, it's interesting to see what the trajectory of the digitalization and the surveillance systems have been. In Uganda, there are like about 5,000 surveillance cameras, even out into the remote slums of Kampala. And the police are being trained by the Huawei people as to how to crack down on dissent. Miraculously, actually, Museveni came out against the democracy protesters in Hong Kong and in favor of China, which is one reason why both of these countries, they have they leverage their surveillance equipments with these authoritarian regimes to gain support internationally. So whether China is doing it for Hong Kong or whether Israel is doing it for West Bank, it's interesting to see that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something we shouldn't forget, that the surveillance actually started in Western world, and they are actually ahead of the
Sure.
game. So when it comes to controlling people, governments learn from one another, and UK started putting camera everywhere in 90s actually,
Yes.
and then US advanced the technology with the help of Israel, and China is master of it. So we could blame these smaller countries, but they only learn the trade from the larger.
Absolutely, I am completely in agreement. It's just so disheartening to see that in a village where there is no, in a Ugandan village, where there's no electricity, there are surveillance cameras everywhere. I mean, the contrast is chilling. So anyway.
So Firuze, it would be nice if you put this, because I looked at your folder and I didn't see this.
I know,
so
I should put this out there.
At least, and also the headings, so we know as you're collecting the information, we see that softwares are here, where they come from. Just even
Yes,
if you don't have time to write, it will be nice to follow the train of thought.
I will do that. I'll do that.
Thank you.
More later. Okay.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating and chilling, as you say. So getting it down would be great. And it does raise the question of whether we should do something more. Even maybe what you're doing, Firuze, makes sense on Pegasus and NSO. That's important enough, so we need to treat it in some way, and probably what you're doing is the best way to.
I'm digging more. I'll give you guys more next time. Yeah.
Thank you. Any comment?
Can I come in, Cory, for a while?
Sure.
I'm going to have some access to Africa, especially Western Africa, which is Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and Ghana. I also sit on the advisory committee of Canadian Development Agency. And I also work as a non-resident fellow to a Cameroon-based think tank called COFO Policy Institute. I can tell you this Pegasus and China and what is really happening, it is not really limited to or confined to Africa. It is happening in some of the biggest democracies like India. And and the second part is when we look at China, until this coronavirus broke out, I used to go to China at least twice in a year. And I can tell you, Chinese are fascinating people. And it'll be even more fascinating to look at their business model. There's nothing which can separate you from what is governments and what is private sector, what is public sector, what is defense. It's very hard. And I would probably request for anyone who is doing any work on technology or China or what is happening in Africa, it would be a very good idea to explore a little deeper into business model which Chinese have. But the world is also coming to know more clearly than ever before about the debt trap, about vendor road which the Chinese follow. Even in India, it's very hard to figure out which are the kind of third-party vendors who have gotten into many investments which have flown in from China and not anybody knew about it. So China is a very fascinating place. The business model is very fascinating, and it'd be a very good idea to look at how do they really operate, because government is business, business is government, and every private sector is under obligation to the government in China to reveal every information which they have to the government in China, should there be a need for it. So, this is very fascinating. China, Africa, and this is not only limited to China and Africa, even in India, you might have been hearing that there's a lot of Pegasus news. And the only country which Pegasus, because Pegasus is a part of defense in Israel, and they will not really tell you anything. So they also operate, in a very convoluted way, and it's very hard to figure out, which is, the intelligence which is the defense one, and these are part of their technology. So they only really spare Americans. So if there is a call from Pegasus to hack an American, plus one will.
I think you lost your connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Firuze, if you met Puran. He's a new
No.
associate, joined us a couple of weeks ago, and he's located in India, but very active with United Nations and large number of other organizations.
Lovely.
And in Africa. So I think he will be helpful. Unfortunately, we lost him right now.
Where in Africa, where in India is he located?
I think it's New Delhi. Am I correct, Greg?
I think so, yes, Delhi.
Yeah, that's what he said the last time, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he's working on a project on universal income supplement. Yeah, but anyway, his reports, actually it's not in his folder, but I'm gonna forward it to everybody or put it in the folder. Anyway, we missed him. So Paul, you were going to say something. Did I interrupt you?
Oh, no, it was just a small comment on the issue of the speeds of access in Africa. I heard reference to penetration, reference to speed, and I think it's important to sort of make sure that those aren't confused, right? Because penetration is sort of the coverage, the area of coverage that people have, and speed is sort of irrelevant if people don't have the access to the network, right? So
Correct.
In some way, especially in Africa, where the penetration rates are so low, then the speed maybe isn't so important.
Well, if the penetration is low and then the speed is also really low within that penetration, that kind of like gives you a
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although most of the applications that the Africans seem to have made progress with are very low, applications that don't require much speed or much bandwidth, right? So we can think of the classic one is this M-Pesa.
M-Pesa,
payment, right. So
but if you're looking for news, and you're doing research and you have a very slow internet, then it kind of like limits how informed you're going to be about what's going on. So that was mostly the reason why I was interested in looking at the speed. Yeah.
Yeah, understood.
In my defense.
No need for defense.
Yeah. So next, actually, before we move on, I want to point out something which Puran mentioned about investments and all private public sector and how they penetrate to various countries. And I think they actually targeted US well, the Chinese organization. But I remember in late 2000s, there was suddenly US, or maybe later, maybe early 2012, 13, suddenly US realized what they're doing, and Silicon Valley suddenly was filled with FBI agents going around and informing people about the investments they're receiving from these VCs, Chinese VCs, which were very much in demand, and then suddenly they were forced to close down and leave. So basically they left Silicon Valley, but there was a period of time which was very obvious. Everywhere there was this discussion. So they tried very hard in US, but they were caught somehow. So next we go to Darius. Darius, are you here?
He's not here.
He's not. Okay, he was working. So let me see who is here. Oh, Puran is back, or no, he's not.
Yes.
Back.
So I'm back.
Yes.
I'm back, but suddenly I lost the link, and then I was trying to connect, and it took me a little while to sort of.
Yeah, we
connect.
realized
So
that. Yeah, it happens frequently. So yeah, we were discussing what you mentioned, and Firuze was also talking about the relevance and things. So if there is no more comment on that, we move on. Is there anything anyone wants to discuss?
I will only say, Pari, that it'll be fascinating to watch out how artificial intelligence in China is going to shape. I mean, that's going to be the next big news. And of course, everybody is saying that everybody is doing everything, but I mean, I've seen some of the facilities on AI in China, especially in Shanghai and Beijing, and I can tell you, out of the world, and I will particularly look ahead to watch out how Chinese artificial intelligence pans out. That's going to be another big thing, aside from everything else. Yeah.
For sure.
They're far more advanced on that, unfortunately. So next, maybe Haley, could you talk about how you are progressing with your project?
Yeah.
And maybe explain what it is, because some of the people may not know.
Yeah. So basically what I'm mainly working on is collecting and inputting data in mapping in GIS format. And then we're using that. I'm working with Darsh in terms of the digital corridor in Central Asia and kind of for predicting, finding patterns, and hopefully we could eventually make it changing constantly so it updates automatically. Basically what I've been noticing and having a lot of trouble with this week is the data differences in like road networks and making sure like all the road networks are covered, because in many of these countries, like the major road networks I have the data for, but I'm having trouble finding data and information for the smaller like connecting roads, if that makes any sense.
Any comments? Any comments? No, then, oh, sorry, I have a bit of problem with my device. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, if there is no comment, thank you. And thank you for the paragraph. And I think we got to continue, you got to continue as you do. And Dariush is trying to get the information for you as much as he can.
Yes.
So next we go to Anna. Anna, are you here?
Yes, hi.
Hello. So do you want to talk about your project?
Yes, so my project, we're leading towards funds and basically information available in proxy material, which was something I did want to ask you about. I'm not sure whether you saw the email that I sent out to you, but basically one of the main things that you asked of me was to see who was voting for what within the board of directors of the top technology companies. And basically within the proxy material or the annual reports, you can definitely see what the board and the committees are voting towards. However, you cannot see which individual board member is voting for what. So I did need your advice about that.
Okay.
Because yeah.
Yeah, when you look at, for example, pension funds, you will see that what they supported, what they didn't support. But we will go through it. I think I send you a link to the website where you can download the proxies. Did I send you that?
No, you sent me
Okay.
one that was very useful for understanding shareholders' power, like voting powers.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. I will send you a link and you will see how to look at it, because you could see who is voting for what. Not everybody, but major shareholders. So on that one, we can look at it. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm just going to add on that. So if you could please perhaps just look at the document that I sent so you can give me some feedback on whether I'm structuring the information as you like.
When did you send me email? Because I haven't seen it.
I believe I sent you it on Tuesday.
Okay, I will go and check it. Then I have missed it.
Sure. And the other thing is about the wiki. So for Greg's, everything is fine. It's just an additional message preaching out to other wiki members to just help add on information to the page. As for the forums page, it was like a speedy deletion. meaning that I've contested it, but I need to see what the main reason was. I suspect that it is a lack of notable sources. If that is the case, I will talk to you and we can see how we can resolve this.
All right.
Good.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So is there anything anyone wants to comment about? No? All right. Then I think we could close down. So thank you everybody for joining us today and have a wonderful week.
Yes, have
And
a
we
great
see you
week.
tomorrow. Next week.
Next week, next Sunday.
Yes.
Take care.
Next
All right, take care.
Take care.
Good week,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye-bye.
Patty,
Thank
just
you.
really
Bye-bye.
quickly.
Oh,
Sure.
Darius is here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so
Darius.
sorry. This is so embarrassing, but I actually overslept until 10:30. I'm so
No
sorry.
problem. Yes.
But I actually uploaded. I think my paper is done. All the tables and everything are that you requested are in there. I ended up only adding 3.
Okay.
I couldn't think of. I mean, I tried a few other ones, but they just seemed like silly when I was making them. Like a lot of them were just like graphical representations of like what was right there. So I think right now it's good. I like it. I think it reads well. I think it looks nice when I scroll through it.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah, from if there's anything else like or any other tables you want me to add, let me know. But I think it looks really good right now, personally.
All right. So in this case, I will look at styling it and we take it from there. And table of content was fine for you, right?
Yeah. As far as the
Okay.
order of the headings go, yeah, it's perfect. Thank you.
So it looks in good shape. I took a quick look at it. I'll read it more carefully.
Okay, great. All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
And Darius, I will contact you because we're going to write a proposal and I'd like you to start to think about it. So I will send you some links to think about it, how to write the proposal for them. Okay?
Like to write a proposal on this project or
Yes,
Okay.
but we got to think about expanding the project. So yeah, we will discuss it.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful week.
Wonderful
Take
week,
care.
everybody. Bye-bye.
You both
Bye-bye.
have a great
Bye.
week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.